wife and I took a trip to Chicago.
All right, good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m., August 2nd, 2016. Call the meeting to order. Please call roll.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Here.
Soldner?
Here.
Inskeep?
Here.
Deckent?
Here.
Dave Line.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Kim Berry, lead us in prayer.
Let us pray together. God of all life, we thank you for a new day filled with possibilities for us to use our influence in a positive way. Let us voice our opinions through the voting ballot, and in this atmosphere of political unrest, help us discern the best leaders for the job by recognizing more about what is right about them than what is wrong. Thank you for our police officers, firefighters, and emergency workers who are on the front lines protecting us. Lord, direct this meeting today as we work together for the greater good of all, especially those with less resources. Direct this meeting and give our leaders insight, vision, and clarity. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, before we begin, I think it would be interesting to note to those who are viewing this evening that we must have a first-run movie here or something, because we've got a full house here this morning. So appreciate all your attendance this morning, and we'll proceed with the next item, which are proclamations. And we have two proclamations this morning. Is Charles Crumble Sr. here? Charles, please come forward. How are you? Good morning. Good to see you. How are you guys? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to read this proclamation and present it to you. I'll begin by, whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln proclaimed that all slavery be abolished. And whereas a constant struggle has been going on to accomplish the goals of that proclamation, to bring true freedom to an oppressed people, and whereas in 1935, Aaron Johnson, along with James Woodson and Lester Harrison, were members of the Kansas Lincoln Day Club of Hutchinson that sponsored the 10th Annual Emancipation Program. And whereas in 1936 in Hutchinson, the Emancipation Proclamation Day Celebration Committee, a nonprofit organization, was organized to arrange proper and fitting activities in honor of emancipation. And now, therefore, I, John Dave Line, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim August 6, 2016 as Emancipation Proclamation Day in the City of Hutchinson, and urge the entire community to help celebrate this important occasion. Charles, I'll present the proclamation, and would you all like to say a few words and give us an idea of what's going to be happening this weekend?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank the mayor. On behalf of the Emancipation Day Committee, we invite everyone out to our celebration, which starts this Thursday, August 4th, and will continue to the 7th. On Thursday night, we will have the Jackie Robinson story, number 42, which will be down at the Fox Theater starting at 7 p.m. On Friday, we will have a three-point shootout, which will be down at Avenue A Park. We will have jazz in the park. The shootout will be from 6 to 8. Jazz will be from 8 to 10. The band playing on that evening will be Rudy Love Jr. We will have free hot dogs and lemonade. That's sponsored by the Hutchinson-Reno County Arts and Humanities Council. And it will continue later on at 501 South Main at Gray's Barbershop, where Frequency will be supplying the music. On Saturday morning, the events will start at 7:30 in the morning with a 3-on-3 basketball tournament on Ian Main. We will have our parade, which starts at 12th and Main and will go south. Our parade marshal is James Carr. There's the old school jam. There'll be a picnic in the park after the parade down at the Home Shelters building. We'll have plenty of food and drinks for everyone. The old school jam will take place at the Domestic Arts Building at the fairgrounds at 9 o'clock. And the Gospel Fest will close our event off on Sunday at 3 p.m. where we'll have our local churches doing a high praise, and our youth emancipation choir will be singing and doing praise dances, and we will close out with an ice cream social. We encourage everyone to come out and enjoy. Okay. And the Gospel Fest will be at the Stringer Fine Arts Building at 3 o'clock. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Well, listen, we really appreciate your carrying on this wonderful tradition, and we wish you the best of success this weekend. Thank you very much. The next proclamation, I believe we have a contingent of various organizations that are here to accept that.
Can we show the video first?
Sure, absolutely. I believe we have a video first. Thank you, Jana.
Janet McCarran, Director of Planning and Development, and we have a short video for you all, and then we'll bring in the contingency from the Southwest Bricktown neighborhood.
The Hutchinson Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative is about engaging residents at the neighborhood level, directly where they live. This enables us to help redevelop the neighborhoods and promote them to attract future homebuyers. We help residents create an identity of the image they feel their neighborhood reflects or what they'd like it to reflect. The identity includes an official name and a brand, which enables us to promote the neighborhood and market it to the whole community. So we not only look at the physical aspects of the neighborhoods that need attention, but we also get the residents involved so they can be responsible for the ongoing success of their neighborhoods and have the tools they need to address any future issues that come up. Our neighborhoods are a reflection of our whole city. If we have strong neighborhoods with residents who love where they live, then we'll also have a strong city with residents who have a sense of pride for their community.
Having an organized neighborhood means a well-connected community. It brings people together and lets them talk about and share ideas on what they want their community to be. This is the first step that we've taken in our neighborhood. We hosted a Donuts on the Driveway event, and in that we were able to put faces and names together. It means a lot more to me to be able to be involved in a community where I know my voice is going to be heard. And having a name associated with that brings us together and gives us that sense of community. I think the Neighborhood Initiative is a really good program to do that.
The Neighborhood Initiative allows for organizations to work together with residents to improve our community.
United Way of Reno County has established a neighborhood center in one neighborhood, and through that initiative we have not only been able to provide the services of the center, but we have also been able to offer the services of partner groups such as Interfaith Housing, City of Hutch Rec to that neighborhood.
So by focusing on just one neighborhood at a time, we've been able to really share resources, work more collectively, and make a deeper impact.
Through the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, we hope to create a stronger impact when it comes to city programs. Within a year, we are already seeing success. In 2015, the Brush Up Hutch Paint program painted 10 houses across the entire city. By focusing on future neighborhoods this year, the same program will help paint 12 homes in a single neighborhood. This initiative not only allows the city to take a more targeted approach on improving our housing, but it's also building a better Hutch.
Thank you all very much. Let me now read the proclamation, and then perhaps we can have a little more enlightenment from those of you who would like to make some comments. So, whereas in 2014, the United Way of Reno County established a neighborhood center in the Avenue A School with the purpose of building the capacity of residents to address issues and market the surrounding neighborhoods. And whereas in 2015, in partnership with the City of Hutchinson, the Hutchinson Recreation Commission, the Boys and Girls Club, the Reno County Health Department, Circles of Hope, and Interfaith Housing, United Way received a grant from the Kansas Health Foundation to fund continued work in and around the Avenue A School. And whereas in 2015, the Hutchinson Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative identified the Avenue A School neighborhood as one of 2 feature neighborhoods for building market capacity. And whereas in August 2015, a visioning charrette was held in the Avenue A school neighborhood during which residents were asked a variety of questions about their future. And whereas in the fall of 2015, a group of residents assembled to develop a name for the neighborhood, and in May of 2016, prospective names were voted upon at a neighborhood event, and whereas the neighborhood has voted itself to name itself the Southwest Bricktown neighborhood, now therefore I, John Daveline, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the Avenue A school neighborhood as the Southwest Bricktown neighborhood. So congratulations to this wonderful initiative. Perhaps somebody could describe what the boundaries are, and then other comments in terms of how this all got started. Thank you very much.
Who wants to go? So the boundaries for the neighborhood are pretty much 2nd to East Street, Main to Hendricks, and in the surrounding area you see around Avenue A School. I'd like for each of the residents to just step forward and introduce themselves and tell you kind of what area they live in within the neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Adela Luna, and I live in the 400 block of West Sherman. I've lived there pretty much all my life. I was born here in Hutchinson. I did move for about 7 years to New Mexico. I had relocated, but did end up coming back home. And fortunately, I am living again in the house that I was raised in. So I take great pride in my neighborhood and my neighbors. Some of them are very elderly, established here in Hutchinson all their lives, and it's good to see people coming together, checking on each other. More so now in the events that we have attended, we're able to meet neighbors in other neighborhoods too, and we all have the same common goal, so it's pretty great, so thank you.
My name is Amelia Orona. I live in the 700 block on West Avenue A. With this project, it has helped beautify some of our homes in my area. Thank you.
My name is Margot Douglas, and I live in the 700 block of West B, and I've got to know a lot of the neighborhood people that I've grew up with, and I'm enjoying being part of this project.
My name is Tina Wells, and my husband Brock. We live in the 200 block of West Avenue B. Our home that we live in has been in the family for a while. It was used for a rental by my parents, and so here recently that we have taken it over, we are doing just little things here and there, and it's been a great help trying to get that fixed up and make it look nice for our neighborhood.
Paul Yoder we live in the 300 block of West Avenue A, and the reason we moved into the neighborhood, I'm with Hands of Christ Ministries, and so we've only lived here a few years, but this project has really helped us appreciate the neighborhood and put faces to the neighbors.
I'm Jesse Juma. I live across the street from Adela. I'm one of the old guys she has to come and check on. But I just want to thank Lisa and Elizabeth and Jesse, the other Jesse. They were the ones that started, initiated these meetings, and they've always been at all the meetings, so they're the ones that helped carry this through. So big thanks to them. Interfaith Housing with Jeff. The reason why these guys pop out, of course, for them initiating it, Jeff actually came down with Interfaith, and they helped do a good neighborhood cleanup. So picked up a lot of brush that was left over from the ice storm and stuff too, Of course, there's been the housings that have been repainting and yards fixed, so that's all part of it. Just real quick, another thing to look at in the future is a redevelopment of Ashmead Park, where we like to put actually amenities in there, like a playground setting, maybe a shelter, maybe a Hispanic, market there. Another thing over by Shattuck Park in the VFW, if anybody remembers, there used to be a ball diamond over there on that corner. Well, one thing in the future, we maybe put a soccer field over in that corner. So, there's just a lot of things that we want to do to help develop this neighborhood. And this is, the initiative from the United Way and the Hutch Rec Commission. Sorry, Tony. And Elizabeth from the Hutch Rec Commission. They've all been a big help for initiating this, and it's really great. In the future, too, Lisa's group, the Neighborhood Center, plans to open up those neighborhood centers and other schools also, too, in other neighborhoods. So, this is just like a kickoff start here that's working, and they like to push that out into the rest of the community, too. So that's another great thing that's going to be coming up in the future, too. So just thanks for everybody, and thanks for y'all for helping us out.
Thank you, Jesse.
Councilman Soldner and Inskeep have also been to a lot of our meetings, too. So a big thanks to them also, too, for attending the meetings and having great input also.
Thank you.
Well, once again, this is just such a tremendous uplifting story, a success story about taking ownership of your neighborhoods, and we applaud each of you for your commitment and giving back to the community, and look forward to bright future for all of you in the neighborhood and the community. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And let me present the proclamation. All right, next item, please.
Item 5, oral communications from the audience.
This is the time that we invite those in the audience to come forward and to introduce yourself, your name and address, and to present any comments that on items that are not on the agenda. And we also ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. So are there any comments from those in the audience?
Good morning again, Mayor and City Council. Jana McCarron from Planning and Development, and I have with me Aaron Barlow. He's our newest staff member. He's an associate planner, just got his master's degree from the University of Utah in planning, and he's the one that did the video. So we brought some new talents on our staff, and I just wanted to introduce him to you all. You'll probably see him at meetings, and some of you probably already saw him at the kickoff last week.
Welcome, Aaron. Speak.
Welcome, Aaron.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't really have much to say, but keep this meeting going.
Smart man.
Appreciate it.
All right, others from the audience. Yes, sir.
My name is Malik Job, and I'm just here to support my fellow officers, and just here to speak on the budget changes that are to be made. I feel that these men work very hard, but whenever you add budget changes to the agenda, and whenever you change the way that they get paid, I feel that doesn't allow them to do their duty correctly. I've heard that their budget is going to be pay for performance or something like that. I feel that will further them from the community, and it will not allow them to be able to act as responsible police officers. And I feel that we need to go with a different I guess you could say a different way to go about it, because I feel that they are trying to communicate with us and be able to work with the community, but whenever you change their budget and you practically force them to do this and do that and make arrests and do this, I feel that you're making them do their job in a way that's seeing it as they need to make money. It's one of those things where they have to make the decision whether or not to do their job correctly or to go out and make money for their family. So I feel that the budget is not going to work for the community. It's just all I need to say.
All right, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? All right, next item, please.
Item 6, consent agenda.
Council, I do have one item that I'd like to spend a little time in revisiting. That would be item 6D. That would be the approval of the amendment to the memorandum of understanding with New Beginnings. This has had some history, and I thought it was deserving that we might get an update from perhaps Jana in terms of where we are in the grant application process. I see Dan Rich is here from New Beginnings as well, and Dan, you may want to help Jana in providing some update in terms of this item here. Jana?
Well, this item is before you because the project has encountered a few little obstacles along the way, one of which was the first obstacle was that they had problems getting their funding from the bank. They lined that up. Then we had required them to do a revised drainage study because they revised the layout of the project. And that they got hung up in that drainage study for several months. Once that got completed, they sent the project out to bid and went back to the bank because almost a year had transpired by this time, and the bank was looking for the paperwork to reauthorize the loan and noticed that our MOU that we had put in our original packet to you all had the incorrect number of units. So that's the reason why we're bringing this back to you, so it can go to the bank. We have, and Dan can help me with this, the bids have been let and they've been received. And I think they're ready to go once we get this done. And I don't know if you guys have found some additional funding, but the bids did come in a little bit higher than what they had anticipated. So they're hoping to borrow a little bit more money. My understanding is from the bank, but Dan, maybe you can
Can we take a minute, maybe briefly describe the project for those that may not be familiar with the project over on West 5th Street?
The townhomes at Santa Fe Place on West 5th, and there's 2 units that they built. Gosh, those have been completed for a while. And then the next phase would be 10 additional units, which we have moderate income housing grant funding for. And the city had to be the applicant for that grant, and it's a $225,000 grant. The city's also contributing some funding to the project. I think our contribution was $46,500 plus $8,000 in building permit fee, basically waivers. And they have a low interest loan from the Community Foundation for $200,000, and the rest of it they're financing. So it's kind of one of those projects where there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of players are part of the funding pool, and here's Dan. He can hopefully answer any other questions you have.
Yeah, good morning, Dan Rich, and I'm the operation manager at New Beginnings. Kind of new on the block in this project, and then I went to work for New Beginnings in January, although I was on the board previous to that time. So I have some background in this. I guess my first comment would be, who thought a drainage plan would hold things up for a year? But thanks to John Deerdoff getting involved, we kind of got that done finally. So appreciate his help.
Well, this is a terrific project, and I appreciate that there are many, many moving parts. If I just might ask just a couple of questions, particularly Dan, in terms of in the information we were provided, and indicated that you were in the process of finalizing all your funding. Where might you be in your funding mix?
I am not directly involved in that. Shara Gonzalez is negotiating with a number of people. I know it's in process. Hopefully, within 4 to 6 weeks, we'll have something firm we can go forward with. The estimates, original estimates, and then with the revisions to the plan, we had to have everything rebid, and unfortunately, those bids came in considerably higher than they had the previous bids before. So we're in the process of evaluating that and then trying to find alternate ways of funding it.
I think the information said that you were hoping to begin in September of this year. Is that
Yes.
realistic in terms
Well,
of construction? Or
Depending on whether we can get the funding put together rather quickly. And again, I don't have the details of that, but kind of, unfortunately, Shar had a conflict this morning and couldn't attend.
Janet, does this, any further delays, does this impact the status with the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation and the grant approval?
They've been very patient with us. We've been providing them monthly updates, and so far we haven't heard them say we're going to take the funding back. But we do know there's some other folks that are wanting to apply for that funding. So we're very anxious, as you guys are, to get this project started. And I know New Beginnings is as well.
I'd just add that Shar did email me last evening, and I know it's probably been said, but working with the architect and the contractor to trim some of the cost, and if they'll do as well as they can there, and it's possible that they can get some additional loan to the project as long as it doesn't exceed the valuation of the project. So I think it's in pretty good hands, so we'll hope for the best and keep this one moving.
All right. Well, we appreciate the update, Dan. I'm very much in support of the project. It's a tremendous improvement to West 5th Street and offering new modern apartment units for the community, and so we wish you well in it. I just kind of felt that it deserved a little bit of an update in terms of where you were in the process, because
Completely understand.
Yes, sir.
And I'm possibly not exactly the right guy, but
Okay.
I'll take the message back.
Thanks, Dan.
Are there any other questions of council?
Real small one. The new MOU refers to 10 units. Is that versus the 12 original? Is that because of the 2 that are already constructed, so we still have the 12? Or
And when they were working on the total project is 14 units.
so it is a decrease of 2 units
Well,
from the original thought.
They couldn't get it to pencil out, and this was way back January of 2015.
Right.
In the negotiations, we inadvertently stuck the wrong MOU, the draft in the packet.
Okay.
This has been 10 units for a long time, but we didn't even realize that the wrong MOU had been signed till the bank was reviewing the paperwork and said, "Oh, do you know your MOU says 12?" So, yeah, they couldn't get the 12 units to pencil out. The remaining 2 units are going to be market rate.
All right, any other questions from council?
None.
I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Please call roll.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner? Yes. Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7A, public hearing to consider adoption of the 2017 budget.
Mr. Deerdoff.
I need a motion to open the public.
Yes, a motion to open the public hearing. Thank you.
I move to, sorry.
Go
You
ahead,
have-
Dave.
Okay. I move to open the public hearing.
Second. Oh,
Please call roll.
Quite a conflict.
we want to do.
Iris
Yeah, excuse me.
Go, I'm sorry.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner? Yes. Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. Mr. Deerdoff.
Mr. Mayor, Council, John Deerdoff, City Manager, and I thought what I might do here is just take a few minutes during this public hearing to provide just a quick overview of the 2017 budget, kind of why we're here today and how we got here today. So with that, our annual budget process begins every year, January, February, when our department heads begin preparing their 5-year capital improvements program. And then between the months of March and May, we begin working on our operating budgets. And then typically, this year was a little bit different than the past, and the council will know this, in that typically what we do, staff will put together a proposed budget, work on that through all these months, and then deliver it to the city council in early July. The council has a month basically to review it, and we're here today in August typically. This year we decided to use a little different process and really break it up into smaller chunks. And I think it really provided a process that allowed the council to be better focused on the details of the budget. So May 12th was our first budget study session. It was really an overview of our budget assumptions, just items that we used to prepare the budget. We then reviewed the proposed capital improvement program as well. May 19th, we spent that work study session reviewing our utility funds, water, sewer, stormwater, This is something in the past that we haven't really dived into in a lot of detail, and so I thought that was really good. In June 16th was a review of our general fund and the other tax-supported funds, those funds that are supported by property tax. Other than the general fund would be golf, Fund Valley and airport, funds like that. And then July 12th, we continued another study session to talk about the entire budget. And then July 19th, the council set this public hearing and proposed a maximum budget number. And so that's where we're at today. The budget as it stands today, I will say I prepared this PowerPoint. It's not as flashy as what planning department usually does, but I think it'll get the job done. But essentially, the proposed budget as it stands today calls for a $1 million increase in our general fund. Looking back over the past several months, at one point in time, we were looking at about a $2.6 million increase, and we've now been able to reduce that down to $1 million. And just for information, $1 million generates about $303,000 for our general fund. And so there's only two funds in the city's budget that are supported by property tax, and that's a general fund and bond and interest fund. And the council will remember how we got to where we're at today. We had a list of probably close to $2 million worth of cuts that we made, whether it be in operations or equipment that we deferred to future years to get us to where we're at today. Mill levy history, it's always good to kind of see where we've been on our mill levy and for the past 10 years. And, you know, we've been fairly flat with the exception of that bump in 2009 when we actually went up 2 mills, and then we followed that the next year with a reduction, and you can see we were pretty flat. And then in 2015 we went up I believe about 2 mills, and that was a year when we talked about the street program, and an injection of an additional $400,000 into our street program was the main cause for that. And then 2016 we had a little bit of a drop in the 2016 mill levy rate. Assessed valuation, that's a very important number for us. Basically, it determines how much property tax money we're able to generate based on our valuation. This year, we basically saw about a 1.6% increase in our assessed valuation. And so this budget was prepared using a valuation of roughly $304 million. Last year, we were right at $299 million. So you can see from this graphic that our valuation has seen just some pretty gradual increases, anywhere from 1% to 2% over the past several years. So not a large fluctuation in any one year. The general fund, basically our general fund, our expenses are up about 1.6% from our 2016 budget. And the general fund, just for information, is really the fund that we fund our basic core services for the city. That's our public safety, our police, fire, parks, streets, planning, zoning, inspection, administration. So that basically encompasses our general fund. And as you can see from this graphic, personnel costs represent about 64% of our total general fund budget. And if you take out the capital and MRF equipment and look strictly at operational costs, that number would be in the 70 to 72%. So it's a big part of our annual budget. When we look at general fund expenses, just a couple highlights, and you know, it's a fairly basic budget this year. Obviously, we talk about wage increases each year, and we do have money in the budget that was intended to allow for people moving on to the new pay plan if we get to that point. We also have money allocated for wage adjustments for all employees, roughly about $250,000 there. And obviously, we're in the middle of negotiations with several of our bargaining units, so that number is yet to be determined. Police officers, you recall that we had a request to add 7 additional police officers to the force. During the discussions over the past several months, we looked at maybe looking at 3, and ultimately we ended up with 2 new police positions in this budget as it sits today. We did add an additional zookeeper. The net effect of that was probably less than $20,000 because we're able to reduce the overtime and some of the temporary seasonal employees that we were hiring. So we won't have to do that with the new position. Housing initiatives, this is something that we still have money to continue to move our housing agenda forward, about $80,000. The Housing Commission has worked very hard on that. The council, there was a bigger number. I think the actual request was 140. We reduced that down to 80 and had the Housing Commission prioritize where that money should be spent. The council's looked at that, and so we've got some money, again, to continue moving our housing agenda forward. I put up their sports arena utility costs. That's a cost that obviously with the sports arena project, we've increased square footage. We now are climate controlled, so we've got air conditioning in that building. And we had some rough estimates going way back that indicated that our utility costs at the sports arena could increase up to about $300,000 because of those changes. And so in our budget, we have roughly $165,000, $165,000 because we share that cost with HCC. So the utility costs at the sports arena are shared equally between the college and HCC. And really, until we have a year of operation, it's going to be hard to determine what that number is, but we do have some money in there for that. You know, look at our our general fund revenue. The big three, as I call them, property tax, sales tax, and franchise tax. You know, sales tax represents 35% of our funding for the general fund, followed by property tax at 33%, and then franchise tax roughly 15%. And when we prepared this budget on our sales tax, we included roughly a 2% increase in our sales tax revenue, which is really a very conservative number. And what we try to do is just look back over the past 4 or 5 years and look at the trends of what sales tax has done. And in our community, it hasn't been big jumps in any one year. And thank goodness we haven't seen drops in any one year either. So franchise fees basically flat. And those are the fees that citizens pay when you pay your electric bill, your cable bill, your phone bill. And so that's just an extra tax that's on that the city gets a percentage of that. So this here graph reflects our spending versus our revenue. And what it shows is not perfect by any means. And we've made some progress over this issue over the years, looking back. And what this reflects is how much we spend in a year versus our revenue in a year. And in 2014, you can see there, the first year I'm showing, we actually spent less than we budgeted. And then you can see in 2015 where we actually spent more than revenues coming in. And the expenses are the top, the blue line, and revenues the green line. You can see our 2016 budget was about $1.2 million out of balance. And as we revise our numbers, this year we're halfway into 16, and so now we probably are only about $500,000 out of balance. In 17, we're right at $1.2 million structurally imbalanced, and that's a term we've talked about during those study sessions where we're spending more or budgeting more money than we have revenue. And I will say, and we've talked about this because you can see it, how it reflected in the difference between the budget of 16 and revised budget is even though we're structurally imbalanced to the tune of about $1.2 million, we would expect during the course of the year through vacancies or line item savings that it's not going to end up to be that much. But I think we've got to be very concerned about this trend because we never know in any given year when we're going to have that one big expense that we're not prepared for. We don't know when we're going to have that one hit in revenue that's really going to affect us. And so, you know, we've been able to continue on this trend for several years simply because of our fund balance. And when you continue to draw down that fund balance, then it's not going to be there years down the road to bail us out in these situations. And we certainly don't want to be in a situation like our state is in where basically there is no fund balance. So again, that's something that the council spent a considerable amount of time talking about. But again, as we budget this budget is structurally imbalanced as we look to approve it as it stands today. Annual street program, I think that's something we always want to talk about. You know, we shared with the council back in 2014 staff's concerns about our street program and continuing to allocate the same amount of dollars every year, and we were getting less work done on our streets. It was simply a case where our funding was not keeping pace with the cost of street construction and street maintenance. And council had some concerns about that. Brian Clinton, our Public Works Director then at the time, brought back what we called a State of the Streets address, and he shared with the council, and this was back in spring or April of 2014. And basically that report focused on the importance of timing of preservation, our current funding levels, peer reviews, what are other cities, our size spending on their street program, and then a recommended annual level of funding for our program. And that suggestion at the time was to add an additional $400,000 to our street program. And so with that, we're essentially in 17, our street program is roughly the same amount of money that we've spent or budgeted for in 16. And really our big projects that lie ahead for 17, phase 3 of Main Street, which would be essentially from 17th South to 7th. And then I think our big overlay project is 11th Street from Jackson up to Main Street. And then, of course, our annual residential crack fill and resurfacing programs. And then we've got a small clink project, which is a geometric improvement project at K61 and 4th, where essentially we're going to just add some turning lanes for the north and south traffic flow there. So fairly small project there. Just a quick look at, and I just picked out, we've got a whole list of capital improvement projects, but just to give people a flavor of some of the things that we're looking at. I mentioned the Main Street project. We do have the bike pedestrian path from 7th Severance all the way up to Main Street along State Fair Road. That's a $569,000 project. The good news, 80% of that funding comes from a state grant that we received. And I think that'll be a good project to really connect some trails internally within the city. Rivers Banks Orchard Park, Phase 4. That is a new community building, if you will, for special events. Some additional parking lot and street work as well. Again, Phase 4 of that project. Major repair to water tower number 4. Council was aware of that. We heard about that. That's a big project. That's the water tower up at 43rd Street by Rivers Orchard Park. And a new lighting in Hobart Detter, $360,000 project there. We've got a couple maintenance projects at the airport, and then a continuation of the Cary Park master plan. And overall, just to kind of give you a picture of the types of projects that we have. We've got projects that address our core infrastructure, and we've also got projects that also address the quality of life issues that are important to people in our community. So it's a really difficult balancing act as we begin to fund. Moving on to utilities, the city's last water and sewer rate increase was in 2011. In 2015-16, we had an outside firm conduct a rate study for us to look at our utility rates, because we were seeing that, again, our revenues weren't keeping up with our expenses. That report was presented to the council. We reviewed that last May, and it determined that we did need to increase our water and sewer rates over the next 5 years to address the structural imbalance in our utility funds. And so the council, through a lot of discussion, determined that we were going to not address that in 17 and move that up to 18. And while we certainly understand that concern in light of our recent ERU or stormwater utility fees, certainly understand that, but we think it's critical that the staff does, that we not lose sight of our fund balance in those funds, and that we really bring our utility funds into where we're covering our expenses on an annual basis. So again, we'll resume that discussion as we start looking forward to 2018 budget. And then just to mention on the stormwater, as you know, we implemented the new equivalent residential unit, the ERU fee structure, beginning in January. Projects, again, we're generating about $2.1 million from that program, where before we were generating about $500,000. So now we're beginning to develop some funds necessary to address some of our infrastructure issues in our stormwater system. Right now we've got a project on the board at Maple Street area, stormwater up around 9th or 10th, around that area. We've got a project at Sand Hills Diversion Box maintenance, and then basically just annual maintenance and cleaning of our current system. And so I think as we move forward, I know people want to see something happen quickly. This is a very important program, and I think it'll be years down the road before we truly see the impact of what the stormwater utility is going to be able to do for our community to address some of the flooding in and around our community. So, Mayor, that really concludes my summary comments on the budget, and certainly there are numerous other issues in this budget. It's a big project, it's a big document, but I just wanted to try to provide just a glimpse and overview of what the 2017 budget looks like. And again, I just want to say I was really pleased with the budget process this year. A little different than past years, but I really felt the council was truly engaged in the process and details of the budget. And I want to thank the council for all your time. We worked you pretty hard during those meetings and appreciate you taking time to do all that. And so I'm going to now turn it back over to the mayor, and then you can conclude or conduct the rest of the public
Thank you, John. I
hearing.
appreciate
Thank
a
you.
very, very good overview. While you're there, spend just a few minutes for the benefit of all of us, the thinking of the city council currently, along with yourself and city councils in the past, of how we've arrived at the guidelines for the city's ending balances in terms of how those are broken out in terms of the allocation of the ending balance.
Yeah, we established a policy, I'm going to say, and I don't have the three categories probably of memory, but we established a policy probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was set up in three categories. It was $2 million for natural disaster, $2 million for, help me out, operating expenses, and I've got it over here in the book.
And 2 months operating.
Yeah, 2 months operating.
2 months operating. Right.
So when you look at all that together, our projected, or based on our policy, should be around $6.7 million. Now, again, you can take, issue with, is that too much? Is it not enough? And, I've spent a lot of time looking around the state of other cities, and everybody's got a different policy on what's important to them, but that was how we developed ours. And again, it changes from year to year. And so $6.7 million. Our projection, as you saw on that other slide, would have us ending 17 at, what was that, 5.1? 5.1 million. And again, we'll be higher than that because of what I said earlier, but it is important to have a strong fund balance. It helps us not only to be prepared for uncertainties, but it also helps our bond rating. And that's one of the things going back into the 2008-09 era. We had some ticks on our bond rating because there was concern about our cash balances, fund balances, which at that time we were down to under $4 million at some point in time. So,
and while you're on that, just again for the benefit of those listening, the revised 2016 ending balance for 2016 is $6.3 million. So potentially we could be reducing our ending balance by $1.2 million.
Correctly, yeah.
Right.
And again, it gets back to what we spend and how we, but
Right.
you just never know, and that's what makes this budgeting so difficult. We're budgeting now for, next, in 2017, a lot of things can happen, a lot of things can change, but I think as long as we are serious about maintaining a good fund balance, that we should be in a position to be protected for those unforeseen situations, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, as Mr. Deerdoff mentioned, through the budget process, there were some very in-depth discussions about addressing our future trends. And again, not to speak light of it, but I think we ultimately have landed up with about $2.5 to $3 million in actual budget cuts that was from previously presented to us in our early discussions. So the council and the management has taken a very, very serious look at the trends so as not to jeopardize our ending balances and to try to minimize any property tax mill levy increase, and that's how we arrived at the 1 mill levy increase. So with that, council, any other questions that you have before we invite public comment?
And we'll be prepared to address any questions.
A couple points of emphasis. Again, the 2016 budget called or expected an ending fund balance of 5.3, and the revised was actually the 6.3. If that trend were also to continue, then hopefully the 5.1 that we budgeted when we look back on 2017 revised might also be higher. You mentioned it. We took a hard look. We felt it needed to be a two-prong approach, not only revenue, but also on expense side. And I'm glad the mayor brought up, and John as well, the cuts that we're able to identify to help us minimize the increase in revenue.
I'll just clarify, because I've got it here in front of me now on the unrestricted fund balance policy. $2 million was for the natural disasters I mentioned, $2 million for stabilization during economic decline, which I mentioned, and then the other one was actually 1 month's previous year operating expenses. So,
very good.
And that's going to change from year to year depending upon your budget. So,
Any other questions of council?
Nope.
All right, we are in the public hearing, and are there comments from the general public? Please come forward. All right, if there are no further comments, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I so move.
Second.
Please call roll.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
yes.
Dave Line.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider a resolution approving the Hutchinson Rod Run as a special event.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, you have before you a proposed resolution for this year's Hutchinson Rod Run. Really only two changes. The dates, number one, from September 30 through October 2, and there's a small change on the map for the event that removes a portion of George Pyle Park as being in the entertainment district. Other than that, there are no changes, and we have had good success with the Rod Run for several years, and I would ask the council to approve that resolution.
Questions of council?
Did Jim want to
Say
take a
anything?
few minutes to
Jim
speak
Groover,
about?
do you want to make any comments?
I'd be glad to.
Sure.
Thanks for reviewing this today, and just want to take a couple minutes just to thank the mayor, the council members for years of support for the Rod Run, as well as all the staff members throughout the city, police department, the fire department. We just couldn't do it without their help. We're closing up on almost a decade that we've done this now. This is going to be our 9th year, so we're really proud of that, and I think we've had really good success with it, and hopefully we can keep continuing doing that. Most of all, I really want to thank the downtown merchants. This is why we do this. The original concept was to bring it downtown, to start familiarizing more people with all the great things that we have to offer downtown, and to boost the downtown economic situation. So hopefully we've helped with that over the years, and hope to keep it up. And like I said, this is the show for them. This is for the downtown merchants and for the city as a whole, because we do generate other funds for businesses around town, motels, restaurants, those types of things. We could have done this show any place. We could have done it in Cary Park, at the fairgrounds, just a parking lot like most of them do it. But the whole concept was to bring it downtown and bring awareness to all the great things that we have down here. So we're looking forward to another good year. As Paul said, we're not making a lot of big changes. We've kind of condensed things a little bit and moved things around, but we're just hoping, like we always do, for good weather, and hopefully everything will go off great. We've kind of switched around our Oktoberfest festivities to the DCI Park instead of George Pyle Park, just because of space limitations and a few things there. So really do appreciate it. Be glad to take any questions if anybody has them.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions of council? No. Jim, thanks for your continued leadership in this
Thank you very much.
wonderful project.
Appreciate
It's
it.
a great, fun weekend. Thank you.
Great event.
Entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the resolution authorizing the Hutchinson Rod Run September 30th through October 2nd, 2016 as a special event pursuant to City Code Section 18-1801, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Any other questions? Please call roll.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8B, consider resolution revising the date of the notice of public hearing on special assessments for Levy C Benefit District.
Good morning, Frank Edwards, Director of Finance for the city. Previously, we had anticipated having a public hearing on the Levy C assessments today, August the 2nd. We had sent notice out to all the parcel and property owners of the meeting, but as it turned out, about 20% of the properties had changed hands since the first time we initiated this project about three months ago. With that volume of properties changing hands, and based on our attorney counsel advice, we decided to ask to move the meeting 2 weeks back so we could properly notify those 20% as well. So we went through a process of actually re-notifying every single property owner of a hearing scheduled for 2 weeks from now, or the next budget session, or excuse me, the next council meeting. In order to move that meeting, it actually takes a revising resolution that we have presented to the council for consideration. And with that, based on the advice from our council, our bond counsel, and also our financial advisors, we would request that the council adopt the resolution to move the meeting 2 weeks out to August the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Questions of council?
Do you feel like you're able to adequately reach those additional 20%?
We certainly did send out notices to everybody and published it in the paper.
And published
So,
it, yeah.
Paper.
we haven't heard back yet that people did not receive it.
We might want to just check and see if there's anybody here today that is here for that. And if there is, we can.
Oh, that's valid.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, do you understand what, I don't know if we want to take a couple questions. I don't know how you want to handle this, but these people showed up, and I know obviously it's not a formal hearing that we'll have in a couple weeks, but we could.
I understand that,
Yeah, please come forward, sir. If you
If
would.
you come up to the podium and.
Come up to the podium and give us your name. Thank you very much.
Yes, I understand that we have the one notice that was mailed out approximately a week or so ago, but why have we not heard about the other that we're changing?
All of those have been mailed. I don't know if you've received it yet or not.
Okay, when was they mailed?
It was mailed approximately Friday of last week.
Yeah, it could be that, should be getting there today or tomorrow, I'd imagine.
Yeah, snail
Okay,
mail.
that's fine, but we came up for this meeting, and we just want to know why we hadn't received anything earlier than what we received now. And that was what our question was. And if we're not in the flood levy plan, do we need to attend?
No.
If you're not in the flood levy, there are 21 properties that were considered not benefited by this project. Those 21 properties, the city will pay for the assessments on those particular ones because they were not benefited. The other property owners were benefited, and those were the ones that would be assessed equally.
But the purpose of the hearing really is to determine, if there's questions about the assessment amount, and obviously as a property owner, you have the ability to pay that off at one time, or it can be spread out over, how many years did we? 10 years, yeah, so.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
Okay.
We got a letter in February talking about it. We also got a letter in May saying that we was no longer considered in floodplain. But we got a letter this past 2 weeks saying that we could come and pay our fees at $900 at one point, or have a finance charge. Now, if I am no longer in floodplain area, why would I receive a letter saying I owe $900?
The purpose of the reason you're out of the floodplain is because we spent money to get you out of the floodplain, and that was part of the whole process. And there's a whole history to Levy C, which is actually in the county, and so there was homeowners out there that came to us and put together a petition that was signed by over 51% of the property owners to proceed with the recertification, which is essentially what we did. And so most of the costs involved in that were engineering costs, just to determine new flood maps. And this was a requirement from FEMA, not something that we dreamt up. It was a requirement. And so essentially, when we went out and talked to those communities or to the residents out there, the benefit of doing the recertification was to keep you out of the floodplain. If it was not done, all of those properties would have been considered in the floodplain. And so I think we
had to have flood tax.
Yeah,
which
300
was exorbitant.
We had 300
Flood
parcels
insurance.
that are now out of the floodplain and about 20 that still will not be out of the floodplain. And most of that's because of local flooding within the levee itself. So,
Okay, so what you're telling me is I am paying for engineering fees, more or less.
yeah, I don't know. Brian might talk about
Brian.
what was actually done, but there were a lot of engineering fees paid throughout the whole process.
There's also construction projects done to improve Levee C, and that was a requirement to be certified. There were some improvements that were needed to be done to that levee system so that it could be shown as providing protection from flooding of the Arkansas River and Cow Creek. So it was some engineering and some construction.
Brian, can you clarify when the notification process for the recertification of the levee ring would have taken place that would have resulted in the charges that he's now
Well,
receiving?
I believe it was 2012 when
Okay, I knew it was several years ago.
we had a public meeting out there. John and I attended out at Reno Valley Reno Valley Grade School.
Right.
So this
And
is just coming to fruition from
this-
that levee ring recert?
That is correct.
Okay.
We've just now finalized all the costs.
Gotcha.
And so are beginning that assessment process. That project has now been complete.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing is, I draw Social Security. I'm a poor person, you might say. I can't afford to give you $900. And, as far as financing, I mean, that's fine. I could be financed, I guess, and we could pay it off at, $100 a month or less. But with insurances and everything, you can't afford to pay things like that for a person on Social Security. And that's about all we have is Social Security to live on. Is there anything, at one time it was talked about, it would be added on to your homeowner's taxes
Exactly.
at like $100 per
Yes,
year.
yes,
It
that
was
will be,
talked about
that
at
will be
one time.
computed.
Now, that is something I could probably afford. But when you ask me for $900 out front, I can't afford that.
Yeah. Just an estimate of the annual cost that would be added as an assessment is approximately $100 per year or less. And that's the $900 financed over a 10-year period.
Right.
So it's not $100 a month. You would have the option to pay the $900 up front and have no assessment at all during that 10-year period. Or you could elect to finance it and pay
$8 a month.
pay basically $8 a month.
And maybe that wasn't as clear, because that would be shocking to me as
Yeah.
well. So I'm glad you brought that to our attention. I don't know if that's something that we could make a little clearer in our communications, because that would be really alarming to someone, I think.
I think the letter did talk about, I don't remember how it, but yeah, but just so you understand, you'll be able to pay that out over 10 years if you choose to. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you for
All right,
coming.
sir.
I
Thank you for
apologize
coming this morning. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Clarify that.
Was there another gentleman?
Yes, sir.
I've never been to one of these before, so I really
Yeah,
don't know
would you
what
give
to
us your
say.
name? Would you give us your name, sir?
I totally disagree with this deal. I mean, I've
Sir,
lived
what
out
is your
there-
name?
Clayton Vetter.
Clayton, all right.
I've lived out there 19 years on Bloomville Road, and I've got neighbors that's been out there 44 years, 35 years. We live a quarter of a mile from a pond that's out there that's never flooded. And you guys got more problems in town with flooding than we've ever had out there. So I just don't understand where this is all coming from. I mean, why do we, and this guy says that they've worked on the levee. I've never seen any work done on that levee, anywhere. So I don't know where all this is coming from and why y'all think we in the county should have to pay for something that the city of Hutchinson is dealing with.
Actually, I believe, as a reminder, this wasn't city initiated, it was resident initiated.
Residents petitioned for that.
They petitioned for that. It's not something we ever would have got our hands in.
And I want to point out, it was a FEMA federal requirement that we remap. And we spent, I don't know, a couple $1 million on our levy system in the city taxpayers paid for that. Levy C was presented to the county because it is in the county to pay for your cost, and they chose not to. And so the question was, did it get recertified or not? And had we not recertified it, went through the process, every property in that levy would have been in the floodplain. And so I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Edmeyer, yeah. Carried a petition signed by 51% of the property owners, and we proceeded with the project. And as it turned out, I think the estimates were double what the actual costs were once we were completed. So all in all, it really turned out pretty good for the residents. I realize it still costs money, but it was about half of what we estimated it was going to be.
And I think the alternative, the reason Edmeyer presented it was because the flood insurance that everybody would have been required to carry if they would have been designated as living in a floodplain was exorbitant. Do you remember the numbers on that?
Flood insurance is expensive. I mean, I've heard anywhere from $900 to $1,000 a year, but
and that's valid.
I don't know.
But I would say that's only for those that have a mortgage.
Yeah, federally backed.
You're not mandated to carry flood insurance, but unless you have a mortgage. But it can be expensive, yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, some of this is over my head, but like I say, I just disagree with it. I don't know where this is all coming from, because I've been here all my life and I've never seen no flood out there. So, I mean, I don't know why we would even have to bring this up for flood levy. I mean, I've been in this town. This town floods worse than we've ever had it out there, like I've said before. But I think if you're going to do something like that, you'd work on your city streets before you decide to try to charge us $1,000 out there for something that's never happened out there in 44 years.
Right.
And the levee that protects you has prevented you from being flooded that was built.
That thing ain't protected me from nothing, because there ain't been enough water there to hurt anything.
Yeah.
If I got to worry about anything, I got to worry about that pond that's north of my house, 1/4 mile. I would think it would flood before that river does.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, sir, that residents 4 years ago petitioned the city and asked us to do this, and there was over 50% of those folks. So our action was based on the request of over 50% of the residents in that area. You may not have been one of them, but there were over 50%, and so we proceeded because of that request. And now that has been completed, there are costs, and those costs will be assessed to those folks who are no longer considered in a floodplain.
Well, I'm sure there will be more of us come back to this meeting come 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, we'll have the public hearing. You bet.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vetter. All right, Mr. Edwards, any other?
No, just that the staff is requesting that we adopt this resolution to move the hearing for from this date to August the 16th at 9 o'clock.
Very good. Any other questions of council? I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution ratifying and confirming notice given of the public hearing in regards to the Levy C Improvement Benefit District as presented to us by staff.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Please call roll.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner? Yes. Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8C, consider resolution authorizing the sale of general obligation bonds.
Previously, the council had adopted a resolution authorizing five projects. Those projects were the Fire Station Number 5, Levy C improvements, the River Otter exhibit, the BNSF Railroad crossing improvements, and the Hobart Debtor maintenance shed and locker room. With those projects, we're now at the point that we're ready to sell bonds to finance those projects, and we would require a resolution authorizing the sale of $2,290,000 worth of general obligation bonds to pay for these projects. The sale date, I think we've got scheduled for September the 19th, And as I understand it, the interest rates continue to be at record low rates, so we're looking forward to favorable interest rates with this bond sale. And with that, I would ask the city's adopting this resolution so that we would be able to proceed with the bond sale.
All right, Mr. Edwards. Any questions? We've reviewed this previously in depth.
Yep.
And Frank, this is simply because we're
Changing
having
the
the
date.
Levy C public hearing 2 weeks later.
Yes, there's got to be a 10-day difference between the sale date and the
Right.
hearing date.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the resolution authorizing the public sale of approximately 2.29 million principal amount of GO Bond Series 2016-C of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, and repealing Resolution Number 2016-R24.
Second.
Please call roll.
Tyros de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. I think before we get into new business, we'll take about a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Coffee talk.
Next item, please.
Item 9A, consider status of structures determined to be unsafe and dangerous.
Good morning, Council.
Morning, Trent.
Maxwell.
Good morning, Trent.
Building official for the city. We are back, and I'll go through these as quick as possible, but give you a quick background. I'm here with the 21 properties that we have identified as unsafe or dangerous structures. I've got them broken up into different parts with different recommendations. So we have 3 different recommendations or actions at the end of this. And I'll just go through this quickly.
Technology is great, isn't it?
It is. If I knew how to do this. Connie, if you can help me. There we go.
All right, here we go.
All right.
So I'll go through these quick. If you guys have any questions as I'm going through them, they are broken up, and I'll explain each one. So this one has a permit. This is one that I'm recommending an extension on, 722 West Avenue A. This is what it looked like after they have done some progress. The recommendation is the 90 days. They have done some framing on the inside. They are confident they can actually get done in August, but to keep it simple, I'm grouping these together as far as the recommendations go. And if you guys feel to adjust that at all, that's up to you to decide if you want to change it. 1015 East Avenue C is also one that recommending 90 days. That's what it looked like before. This is some of the progress. And this is more of the progress. So I went back there yesterday. They had a little bit more siding on. They've got the dormers on. They've got all the windows in. If you recall, she put the windows in. A lot of them were getting broken.
Yeah.
And so this time when she put the new windows in, they put these covers on to help protect them and lock them. So shutters, yes. I said dormers, but shutters. This is the little portion in the back that was demolished. This property has 4 structures on it. They're going to work on the main house, which she wants to move in before Christmas. Her original request was December 1st, and so a little bit longer than the 3 months, but again, trying to keep things simple for us and keep them actively working on it. They did demolish that little structure. That's what's left. 628 East Avenue F as well, 90 days. This is what it looked like at the beginning. This is what he's done so far. The garage has been demolished, cleaned up. They are ready to paint and start working on the inside. They had a front porch and little deck, and that is also removed. 1117 Milcon, same thing. He's done a lot of work on it. We've had inspectors over there doing inspections. He thinks within the next week or 2 he'll be complete. But also I recommended 90 days for him. 1026 East Second, they requested a little bit longer. And excuse me, I had the 2 mixed up. East Avenue C was January 25th. This one is December 1st. The property that had the shutters on. This was purchased by a local landlord. They've done some work on it on the back and some of the cleanup and framing and so forth on this. Like I said, they recommended or they asked for a little bit more time, but I'm trying to keep them hustling and keep them going on it. 300 West 9th, this is what it looked like at the beginning. This is what it looked like Monday. They've done quite a bit of work on the outside. They're trying to keep all the siding the same. So on one of the west side of the house, they're removing the original wood, replacing some of the rotten pieces on the east side and the south side, the main front of the house, and then they'll address the west side with what they can get closest to match that, so they can keep it looking the same. That's what the back looks like. And that was also 90 days, and they are confident that they'll have it done before the 90 days as well. And that is an exterior only. They've got a lot of work to do on the inside. So kind of looking at this house here, this 510 North Walnut, I think the 300 West 9th is very similar to it. They're going to have a lot of expense into the house on the outside, and then we'll work with them on the inside. And so if they've done everything they've committed to, then in 3 months I'll come back and ask that they be removed from the list completely, and we'll deal with them through building permits to get the inside livable. 510 North Walnut, if you've been by there, it has changed quite a bit. This is what it looked like part of the process.
You're onto the removal
Yeah.
list now, right?
Yes, I
No,
apologize.
this is
No, these are
removal
removal,
from the list.
removal
Yeah,
from
right.
the list.
Correct. 300 West Ninth was
Yeah,
the
let's
last
deal,
one.
let's deal with the extensions first, if we
Okay,
can.
sure.
Can we do that?
Yep.
Yes.
Sure.
All right. Well, it appears that you've done a good thorough evaluation of each of these and identified your recommendations. Council, do you have any questions on these 6 properties for Trent?
These are for the extensions.
These are for the
Extensions.
90-day
90-day
extension, that's correct.
Yeah, I drove them yesterday, and you can tell that everybody's really been putting forth the effort. And so I would move to approve a 90-day extension to continue for the rehabilitation of 722 West Avenue A, 1015 East Avenue C, 628 East Avenue F, 1117 Milcon, 1026 East 2nd Avenue, and 300 West 9th.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please call roll.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Lang?
Yes. All right, next item on the removals, Trent, if you
Okay,
would.
we have 2, 510 North Walnut. This is kind of the process of what it looked like Monday. This is what the front looked like. They did have some special siding that they had ordered that was delayed, and that's why it's not on. This is the north side of the house, and that is the south side of the house.
Yeah, it looks good.
This one too, if you drove by, a huge change.
Yeah.
So that's
He's-
what it looks
he's
like
done a
on
lot.
Monday, or actually before Monday.
He's really done a lot.
And then one thing I added, Monday is that garage. There was a little bit of structural questions on the front. They have since blocked it in. They have stuccoed it. They're going to get that painted to look like the house. And they left an entry door. That was just fine. So it's going to be more like a shop instead of a garage.
Cool.
So those are the 2 that I'm recommending
Okay.
for removal.
All right, any other questions of council on these 2 properties?
Just good work to the owners of those 2 properties.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they look good.
I move we approve removal of 510 North Walnut and 1001 West 13th from the condemnation list.
Second.
All right, please call roll.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Lang?
Yes. All right, next action item on the solicitation of bids. Trent?
All right, this is the first one with no address. This is on Avenue C, and he actually did state, I think, between the 2nd and 3rd week in August that they would have it demolished on their own, but it is still there now, and so this is the first one. 417 East C, we've had no communication. I think the owner is deceased. 527 North Cary, the owner is deceased. The relatives and so forth actually wanted the house to come down as well. 605 Cary, they did sign the release. And 909 East First also was signed. 218 South Reformatory, last I knew they were trying to give the property away. No one has come forward as the new owner, and so I think that one kind of has fallen apart as far as giving it or getting a new owner on it. 514 East Avenue C, she just wants to make sure she has time to get things out. I've explained the process will still be 30 days to 2 months based on asbestos inspections, bids, etc. So it's going to be a little while before we'll go in to actually demolish it. 615 Cary, 724 West Sherman, 1501 East 4th, 723 East 7th, 413 East 35th. That's the garage of that same property, and 317 East Avenue D.
Trent, I just had one question. Since these demolitions are, the bids for them are solicited in groupings, if the East C property without an address did follow through on their own demolition, will that mess up the bids, or the bidder we choose would just pull that out?
Correct. The bids are actually given on an individual property basis.
Okay.
So they're not, in fact, if we come back, which we always have done with the bids and awarded them, we could have 3 different demolition contractors on it.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And Paul, I don't see that pulling that off if they demolish it in 3 weeks before we, as long as the bid's probably not awarded before
Yeah.
that, would be probably the key.
Okay.
Why don't you take a minute and go through the bid solicitation process and the demo process and the time frame of all this likely?
Sure. Through our purchasing department, Marge Bryant sends out notices to anyone that is signed up with her, and probably anyone that she is aware that is a licensed demolition contractor. Either people that have worked with us before or people that give her information. So she'll send it out. I think last year we had 4 or 5 demolition contractors. Usually it's 5 or 6 that we get each year. From that, which will probably be 3 weeks before we actually open bids, then we look at time frame. Part of that, we have an asbestos inspection, which is also the low bid. We'll go out for bids for inspectors to go and check and make sure there's no asbestos in them. If there is, then we take also the low bid for asbestos abatement. That has to happen first before demolition can even start. So if we have our demolition contractor selected in 3 weeks, it'll probably be another month before they're able to start, because we have time that we have to give the state to respond to our asbestos report. So we are easily a month and a half to 2 months out if everything goes smoothly.
Gotcha.
Trent, can we go back to the property on Reformatory? Okay. There, okay. That vehicle that's sitting back there, there's a vehicle and then there's a whole bunch of trash behind that structure. Is that part of this property, or is that?
It is part of this property.
Okay,
The van will have our towing contractor tow it.
Okay.
And if the trash is not a nuisance to the neighbors, it'll get cleaned up by the demolition contractor.
Okay, okay. I didn't, because there's a whole lot of shrubbery and trees and stuff, and I didn't know whether they would clean that out or whether it's.
All the
Yeah.
small and immature trees, they'll clean up. The mature
Okay.
ones, unless they're dead, they'll leave.
Okay. Okay.
And this property owner was identified?
Yes, the son, I believe it was the son that has called. The father passed away. The fire happened in 2009. The family thought the house was no longer theirs. The mom did not make the family aware of it. So the son is the one, I believe it was the son, that had it on Facebook, that was trying to gift it. To have someone save it. And for 2 weeks, I haven't heard any communication from anyone wanting it.
Were there any others in this list who are still openly advocating for keeping the properties, like anybody here who?
No, the only thing that just recently came up, and the individuals here, they looked at 2 properties that were on the list, 218 South Reformatory and 723 East 7th. And I didn't become aware of them until yesterday, and they were trying to purchase the property or accumulate the property to rehab it. That's the only change of anything that's happened. No one else has discussed any of them with me.
Okay, thank you.
Might that occur yet, or with action today to proceed with bids, would that close all doors?
Well, I don't know that anything's final till it's on the ground, but it's never happened before this way, and we've sent communications out for months, so it's really
highly unlikely.
New waters that I don't know. I imagine if you guys wanted to change your mind down the road, you could if the house was still standing, but I didn't give any promises because, like I said, it's I knew today was happening, and at this point we'll go out for bid and so forth, but like I said, it's not probably definite until it's in a pile, so that's not for me, I don't think, to decide. So, and that's if they can find the owner and even get the property. So,
Anything else, Trent? Any other questions from council? Are there those in the audience that have any questions or comments? All right, I would entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the solicitation of bids through central purchasing to demolish the structures located at 0000 East Avenue C, 417 East Avenue C, 527 North Cary Street, 605 Cary Street, 909 East First Avenue, 218 South Reformatory, 514 East Avenue C, 615 Cary Street, 724 West Sherman, 1501 East 4th Avenue, 723 East 7th Avenue, 1413 East 35th Avenue, and 317 East Avenue D.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 9B, consider Historic Preservation Fund project agreement.
Good morning again. Jenna McCarron, Director of Planning and Development. And before you have an item to accept, hopefully, Historic Preservation Fund grant from the state. Just a little bit of background. In 2016, earlier this year in January, you all approved an Historic Preservation Action Plan. And part of that plan called for us to apply for this grant that's before you. The grant is two parts. It has a historic preservation cost comparison tool, which we're hoping to get a consultant who will get down to the nitty-gritty in terms of how much does a replacement window cost, how much does it cost to repair a window, how much is a vinyl window, and just to answer some of these questions that we've had with this associated with these historic mostly houses that are wanting to be rehabbed. And the statements made that the historic preservation is too costly. So this tool should be very helpful for us. I know the state was excited about it, and we did receive the full amount of the grant we asked for. The second part of the grant would be for preservation consultation services, and this would be designed to help people who come in wanting to do work on their homes or on their commercial structure, just to give them some expertise that we don't have on staff. In February, earlier this year, you all approved us applying for the grant. We wrote a letter of support, and we have been awarded a grant in the amount of $11,500. Our match is $7,750, and most of that is salaries, staff time to work on it. But we do require your approval of the grant agreement is required. Should you approve that, then we will issue an RFP for consultant services. We may wind up having to do two different RFPs. The state has indicated they're not sure that we're going to be able to find one firm that can do both types of work. And that's all I have for you. We are proposing that you accept and approve this grant award and authorize the mayor to sign it. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
This is a great step that you're taking. Yeah, it really is, to clarify and to help council interpret some of this that's come before us.
Well, I think it's going to help the people who are trying to rehab a house a lot.
I think it's going to be a leader in the state, too. I think other cities will end up using it if it works well.
Janet, the cost comparison tool, once developed, then it's available for use and reuse, and maybe may need updating from time to time in terms of costs associated. But and this is a grant that what's the time frame during which it needs to be completed?
Well, they initially had said by July 1st of next year, but the state's been somewhat slow in getting the materials to us, so I have a feeling we're probably going to be able to.
We should have 12
extend
months
that.
probably,
Yeah.
huh? Okay.
It's usually 12 months.
Will we have the capacity, or will we need to seek in the future consultant aid in updating the cost comparison tool?
You know, we'll talk to whoever we have develop it. There might be a way that we could just plug in a CPI index. And if we can do that, then we wouldn't really need to have it updated. I think costs, generally speaking, rise in relation to one another. But there could be some kind of thing I wouldn't know about, like the oil thing. When the oil prices dropped, then you saw that the road bids were coming in way under. So there could be something like that that would happen that would make us have to go out and have it reevaluated. But I'm not anticipating that we'd have to do it very often.
Well, it will be a great tool, and especially going well into the future in terms of it remaining relevant and timely for the cost at that time. The consulting service, now that is limited to whatever period, roughly the 12-month period that we'll have.
That's correct.
And so if it's used, it's used. If it's not, it's not.
And if it's not, we would turn the money back to the state.
Is there any way to gain any value out of that if there's not much usage of it that could be utilized beyond the grant period?
We could talk to the state about that. They're pretty flexible, and if we find out that the costs on the other side, because these are all estimates on our part, they may be willing to let us revise the cost comparison, use it on that. But I don't really know. We haven't had a whole lot of folks come in lately on historic preservation, so it seems it runs in cycles. And it's just kind of, I'm not sure. I can't really answer what's going to happen, but.
Yeah, I know you can't. I guess I'm just trying to find a way if the consulting service is not utilized at all or very little to somehow gain some value of that beyond the 12 months that we may have.
Yeah, we could ask them also to host a small workshop. If nobody uses the money at all, they're pretty amenable to. They don't want the money to be returned to them. They'd rather us be able to use it. So we'll kind of keep track of that. And if it looks like we're not spending it, then we'll propose to the state some alternative to be able to use that money.
And maybe, I don't know, 3 months is probably too premature, but 6 months later or whatever, if you got a gauge, maybe we can up the communication, print, and advertising to promote that this is available.
Right.
To utilize some of those funds so that we could, so it doesn't get returned, laid to waste, either one.
Hate to give money back.
Well, I'm very pleased to see these. Unfortunately, we had several issues last year. Fortunately, we haven't had any this calendar year yet, I believe. But they're bound to occur in the future, and both are good things. I'm hoping that we can gain some value, and if it's not really used a lot, maybe some workshop or further communication of its availability on the consultation end of this.
All right, any further questions of council? I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve project agreement number 2016-004 between the City of Hutchinson and the Kansas State Historic Preservation Office as presented to us by staff.
A second?
Second.
All right. No further discussion. Please call roll.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 9C, consider 2016 Emergency Solutions Grant.
So it's grant day here at City Council. We'll actually have a couple of closeouts for you next meeting, but this is Emergency Solutions Grant. The city normally applies for this every year. Actually, we're kind of the pass-through. And Emergency Solutions Grant, since 1994, the city's been involved in some form of this grant. They've kind of changed names over the years and revised it a little bit. The Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence Center is a subrecipient of the grant. We do receive a small portion, about 2.5% for grant administration. The grant award for 2016 is $40,568. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this grant.
Did New Beginnings choose not to apply this year for this particular
They
grant?
chose not to apply. They have been able to finance their homeless shelter locally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions of council? Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the 2016 Emergency Solutions Grant from KHRC in the amount of $40,568.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call roll.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 9D, consider 2016 Housing Initiatives funding recommendations.
Okay, well, good morning again, and hopefully for the last time today. Anyway, this is the Housing Initiatives funding recommendations, the remaining budget that was allocated by City Council for 2016. And as you'll remember, in 2016, $70,000 was set aside by you all as part of the budget process for housing initiatives. Those funds were not specifically allocated to any particular project. You asked the Housing Commission to come up with recommendations. In a few months ago, I'm trying to remember exactly the month, it probably says in your staff report, City Council approved allocating $50,000 as part of a revolving grant program to interfaith housing, and I know they've used that on at least one house. We should be bringing a report back to you on the progress that they are making under that grant. $2,000 was approved by Housing Commission for our land bank design competition. And then today's proposal is to use the rest of the funding. Just a little bit of background. In 2009, the city conducted a housing needs assessment, and one of the last items we haven't really addressed as part of that assessment is a housing marketing campaign. The housing marketing campaign would involve, part of it would be an integrated website, which would include the Hutch new homes for rent, as well as city programs, and how to hook up to utilities, and where the school district boundaries are, and things that some other communities have that we don't really have everything in one place right now. So I've got dodgecityhousing.com up there. This is where we got the idea. They have a very nice integrated website, and it's very useful for someone moving to the community or even moving around in a community. So the Housing Commission recommends spending $10,000 for that integrated housing website in a partnership with Hutch News. They would be the ones that would do the maintenance, the design, and the ongoing operations of it, and we would provide them with some content. They would get content from the MLS, as well as they have purchased the Hutch Rents. So they now own Hutch Rents, and it would be $10,000 for initial setup, and then $5,000 a year for operating and maintenance costs. So we're proposing that the first $5,000 come from the housing initiatives for this year, and then we'll cover it with the department budget the next 2 years. Also, the Housing Commission is proposing that we do some sign toppers, use the remaining $3,000 that's in the housing initiatives funding for putting sign toppers similar to those that are in the Houston Whiteside Historic District in our featured neighborhoods. So Southwest Bricktown would have sign toppers, and also the yet to be determined or revealed Graber neighborhood. They do have a name, but I'm not allowed to tell you what it is. And the Housing Commission was pretty excited about the prospect of these. They just asked staff if we would come up with some criteria, some standards, and so we'll do that so we have some standardization. One thing they were worried about, and you could kind of see it here, is that block font letters are easier to read. The script is kind of hard. It kind of fits Houston Whiteside because it's historic.
Yeah.
But for a regular neighborhood, we'll try to come up with, standards that make the signs legible. So our recommendation, as well as that of the Housing Commission, is to approve a contract with Hutchinson News for development of the integrated website, and also supplemental funding for street sign toppers to be placed in the featured neighborhoods, and that should take care of the allocation for this year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Janet, when would the first year of operation of the website begin? And there's development
Right.
time, work, et cetera, and then at some point
We're anticipating
begins.
October. We would make that first payment, and we'd pay a year ahead.
Okay.
So
So it should be up and operational sometime in October.
Yes, they've already
Good.
started a lot of the work on it because we asked them to come do a demo to the Housing Commission. And so I think that they're pretty well, they're just waiting on us to give the go-ahead.
Okay, good.
Any landlord, any developer can put their wares on
Yeah.
this.
Correct.
This site, okay.
If they have a house for rent, and it's a discounted rate. There was something we didn't really decide, and I guess, I don't know if I should throw it out here. At the Housing Commission, there was some discussion, but it was never really decided or determined whether or not we should give a discount to landlords who have
Completed the registration
right,
process.
they've registered and who have actually, passed or at least registered. And because the program kind of changed in the middle of us talking about the website, we weren't sure exactly how that would work, because now everybody has to register. I suppose we would just say, well, if they don't register at all, we don't want them to advertise. But now everyone has to register, and if their tenant won't let them in, it seems kind of like that would not be fair to, if the tenant won't let us in the unit, it seems like that would not be fair to the landlord, although we could do an inspection when it's vacant. So I guess I just wanted to throw that out. The news has built in their cost, a 30% discount, if that's something you guys would be interested in doing. To those folks who are registered and who allow us to do an interior inspection of the rental unit.
Tell us how the mechanics of the updating might work with the Hutchinson News, and maybe they might want to comment on that.
I don't know, John, do you have?
Explain the
any-
frequency of it and make sure that it is current.
This is John Montgomery.
Morning, John.
Good morning. Question is updating?
Yes.
Well, there are a lot of pieces that are coming together with this website. Jana mentioned the MLS for homes for sale, and that's an automatic feed, so it just feeds right off of the MLS when homes go on and off the market. There's the Hutch Rents, which is the rental site, and that'll be pretty much self-service by the landlords. They will list their own properties for rent. But we're going to have some communication with Jana depending on how we settle this matter with landlords who are registered or not with the city. And then the partnership allows the city and housing, Jana's department, to put content up. I'm not sure all of what that will be, but guidelines, and I don't even want to speak to that, but there's certainly affording plenty of space, and that'll be up to, we have the ability for Jana and her department to do that themselves, or they provide it to us and we'll take care of it for them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
One thing I didn't mention is right now, the housing programs that we have, like Brush Up Hutch and I'm drawing a blank on all the housing, NRP, and some of those other incentive programs. They're on the city's website, but they're way down. It's hard for someone to find them.
Yes, it
And
is.
so something like this that's integrated and has the marketing power that the Hutch News has will get a lot more visibility. And we're hoping it will market our programs a lot better.
Other questions?
Well, Jana, you raised the issue about recognizing rental properties that have passed inspection. I, for one, would like to see us do, and I recognize we've modified the rental inspection program, but to the degree that we can, I would like to incentivize and promote inspections occurring and be able to recognize then, whether it's monetarily or however, those landlords, those properties that have been inspected and passed. And so I'm strongly in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, Steve. I think something needs to be there that says this is an inspected, approved housing. So, yeah.
And we can work that out in our operational agreement with.
Yeah, I mean, I see no reason to delay approving this, and you all
Right.
figure out the details as you go along.
And launch date, anticipated, did you say that? Launch date for the
I
website?
think we're hoping to be launched in October.
October, very good. Okay.
This will be a nice resource
Yeah.
for people moving into our community as well as people already here.
Yeah.
And you could probably search by neighborhoods, like the Graber. Remind me, what was that called again?
Very funny.
You almost caught me.
Oh boy, I didn't mean to do that.
Graber.
Oh, it's going to be the,
Leave it at that. No, that's good.
All right, any further questions? Good work. Thank you, Hutchinson News. Appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Do I hear a motion?
I move we accept and approve the recommendation of the Housing Commission for the expenditure of the remaining housing funds as presented by staff.
Second.
All right, motion second. Further discussion? Please call roll.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes. Next item.
Item 9E, consider agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation for improvements to K61 and 4th.
Morning, Bruce.
Good morning. Bruce Colley, Director of Engineering. See if we can get this up. There we go. The agreement for consideration is between the city and the Kansas Department of Transportation. It's for geometric improvements on K61 at the intersection of 4th Avenue. The improvements to the intersection will provide a dedicated left turn lane onto 4th Avenue for northbound traffic on K61. And in accordance with the agreement, City Engineering Department staff will complete preliminary engineering, final construction documents, and we will advertise, bid the project, and do the construction engineering inspection as well as the project closeout. This is a view of the intersection as it presently exists. This would be the northbound lane for K61. Presently, there's no left turn lane. You will notice that there are on all other three approaches dedicated left turn lanes. I'm not, typically this is a safety improvement. I'm not aware, and I haven't researched the number of accidents, but nonetheless, I think it's going to provide a very, very good improvement for geometrically as well as safety. This is what we have done preliminarily. We've submitted this to the Department of Transportation. They have provided their blessings. And again, if you recall back, we're now going to go ahead and reduce that median width and provide a protected left turn lane for northbound K61 traffic onto 4th Avenue. As outlined from a fiscal standpoint, as outlined in the agreement, $76,470 was approved by KDOT. Funding for the project in the amount of $76,000 is what we've included in the CIP program. This is a 2017 CIP. The agreement came in early. And essentially what the line item amounts are for the funding of this project is $65,000 in a grant form from KDOT, and then $11,000 from the Special Street Fund. I have reviewed the agreement myself. City attorneys reviewed the agreement as well, and our recommendation is to have authorization for the mayor to sign the agreement. Any
Bruce,
questions?
when might we see the orange barrels?
I'm sorry?
When might we see the orange barrels then?
It would be, since it's a 2017 project, we may see the orange barrels. I'm going to guess, let's go ahead and say April 1st of
April
2000.
1st.
Yeah, for April Fool's Day, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Not during the state fair.
Not during the state
Okay, thank you,
fair,
sir.
no, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff to Bruce? All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I will do such. I move to approve the agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation for improvements, and I think it is an improvement, at K61 and 4th Avenue, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Please call roll.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 9F, consider agreement with BNSF Railway Company for Poplar Street Crossing south of 3rd.
The agreement for consideration before you today is between the city and Burlington Northern Southern Freightways Railway Company, BNSF, to replace street crossing. This street crossing is at North Poplar Street, just south of 3rd. And this is an ongoing consideration and contract that the city has had with BNSF to replace very rough crossings, and I believe this is the 4th or the 5th one, as I understand it. The crossing surface replacement, just so you get a feel for it, generally takes 3 to 5 days to complete. During that 3 to 5 day period, the crossing itself will be closed. So Poplar will be closed during that period. Again, that's for 5 days. Traffic control is provided by the city, and also the approaches to the new crossing are provided by the city. From a fiscal standpoint, as outlined in the agreement, this project is a 50-50 share cost. And BNSF has prepared the cost estimate, which should be included in your packet. I've reviewed that cost estimate, talked to BNSF about it. The complete total work cost is $182,492, and it's a 50-50 share amount. And the estimate on the 50-50 share is $91,247, which would be the city funds to have this work completed. This next slide shows you a project that we did with BNSF. The crossing is on Main Street. What I tried to display here for you was the approach by the city, which are the little arrows. Lost my mouse. Yeah, little arrows right here. So the city crews provide the asphalt that comes up to it. All the concrete work is done by BNSF. So that Poplar Street crossing is absolutely in horrific condition. And I must apologize. I read through the minutes of our last meeting, and I informed you that this agreement would be forthcoming within 180 days. And there's an old saying that my ship came in, but I guess my train came in early. So, so nonetheless, staff again has reviewed all the documents, and we are requesting a motion of approval with the BNSF Railway Company for the signature of the agreement and the funding associated with that. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Bruce, what do you anticipate the cost of to us to do the approach work? That'll be ours totally.
Probably less than $3,000.
Oh, it's incidental. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Real incidental.
Very
Okay.
incidental, yes, sir.
Okay. Well,
right.
long overdue.
Long overdue.
It's
Any other questions of council to Bruce? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move we approve the contract for crossing surface installation at the Poplar Street crossing south of 3rd Avenue.
All right, motion. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Please call roll.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Lang.
Yes. On the next item, G, consideration of 2017 budget. We are going to defer action on that to the August 16th City Council meeting. So that will be an agenda item for the August 16th meeting.
I just want to point out, just for the council's understand, that as the budget was published, as we look at it today, we can't exceed that maximum amount. And we can reallocate within those dollars, but we would not be able to exceed that without republishing another hearing and so forth. And statutorily, we're required to have our budget to the county certified by, I think it's August 25th. So, anyway, and that's certainly your option. So,
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, next item, please.
Item 10, report of city officials.
All right, Jade, do you have anything?
Just wanted to remind everybody that it is a very important day, primary election day, so please go out and vote. Extremely important election for the future of our state. That's it.
Dave?
Thank you.
Echo that. Get out the vote.
Steve?
Triple that. Two other things. I think I've asked this and I've forgotten the answer, but John, I guess you're able to probably answer this. There's a number of handicap ramp curb cuts going in my neighborhood on Plum Street. And the question is just how again are those determined? What locations, what areas, where they'll be done?
I'm not sure
I
know.
looked and Brian's left.
Brian's left, yeah.
Okay. You might ask him to
Yeah, I'll
just
do
get
that.
back with me. Just curious.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see them.
I mean, sometimes it's a part of a project. We
and
don't
I
have a
think there's
project
going on there.
project on South
Sometimes
Plum.
it's a request from a resident.
neighborhood.
There are not very many intersections where we don't
There's about a
have.
half a dozen or more of these happening just
Yeah.
right in a couple block area. And
So,
so anyway.
Yeah, I'll find out what's going on there, but sorry.
Second thing I've got, and I know we've deferred, but I would wanted to mention a budget item just because I think it's timely. Unfortunately, I missed the last budget study session, and John, you and I met, and I'm still a little foggy. You quoted housing initiatives $80,000 this morning, and I don't know if that's accurate. Then I think it includes the one element I think was recommended, and maybe some sense of pursuing that, and that's to eliminate $10,000 for infill study. And the reason I want to raise it, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit this morning, is that we just approved, and I certainly agree with it, condemning 13 or 14 structures. That of course is going to be 13 or 14 more vacant
Spaces.
lots. Granted, it's an improvement to the neighborhood to get rid of those structures. I don't argue that. And my concern is that, and 10,000 is not a big amount, but I'm hoping that we can reorganize and find a way to fund that so that study can be done. Because I think Housing Commission, I know I struggle with it personally, but I think the Housing Commission likewise is struggling. What is the best route to take? And I wanted to mention it this morning because we just, a few minutes ago, dealt with the condemnation. And I know it weighs on me to think the idea of condemning structures, and hopefully likewise you. And I wanted to tie the two together, that not only those 13, but the hundreds probably of vacant lots that we have that have occurred over the years, especially in the south part of town, and seeking a means to help guide Housing Commission and us to determine what might be the best.
And
Jana,
Steve, I remember
yours-
in that session when you were gone, Jana mentioned that if we had to cut anywhere, that might make the most sense because that's something that staff could
Staff
work
is
on
gonna
doing
do.
themselves.
Work on.
Well, and it's interesting you had mentioned that because staff had said we could work on it. Yesterday, we had a phone call from KU, and they are proposing, and we have to take it to the land bank and probably bring it back to you all, but they're proposing that we give them, rather than doing the design competition, that we give them a grant for that of $10,000, which we already had set aside for a design competition, to do an infill study, which would include prototype designs, not only for those land bank lots, but also a review of all of our vacant lots in the town.
Fantastic.
That's
So,
great.
I think that might be a win-win
Good.
all
Yeah.
around.
I would concur.
I'm glad that I'm so effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. All right, Nancy?
No, nothing today.
I've got a couple of items, more of a request than anything. I think it's been over a year since we have heard from both the new owner, developer of the Atrium Hotel Convention Center, as well as perhaps even 18 months or longer from the new owner of the Hutchinson Mall. And I'm wondering just whether it would be appropriate as we go forward in the months ahead to invite both these developers for an update, because I do understand there's been substantial and significant improvements made to both facilities. The hotel, and I walked through it the other evening, and just marked improvements there, as well as the Hutchinson Mall, and there's been some tickler news on what's happening there. So, John, I just asked maybe that as we go forward in the late summer and early fall, that you might reach out to these folks and see if we can add them as an agenda item.
Sure.
I think it would be an interesting report. So,
Okay.
if we
Do
could.
that. Catch them next time they're in town, maybe.
Okay, fine, thank you. John, what do you have?
Really don't have anything. Just quickie on Amtrak. Amtrak, BNSF, Burlington. Anyway.
Anyway, those folks.
BNSF.
Northern Staff.
Yeah. They've put together another kind of a train trip, and I think it's kind of a tribute to the CEO of Amtrak that's retiring, and he wants to take a ride out on the Southwest Chief out towards the Hunt area just to take a look at the new improvements that we've all been involved with for the last 6-7 years to make happen, going up to more of a, allow them to have high-speed rail throughout the route. And they're coming through Hutch be here at 10:10, they leave at 10:15, and I'm not going to be able to go this time. I've done it before. It's a great trip. Unfortunately, you get back here at 3 a.m. on Friday morning. But I think Councilmember Deccan's going to attend and represent the city.
I never got to ride a train as a kid,
Yeah.
so
There you
I'll
go.
tell you what.
It's really a good.
It's fun.
It's an opportunity to visit with.
that
someone
was able to make
And we'll be picking up people in, Topeka. They'll be picking up Newton, Hutch, Dodge Garden, and then all the way out to La Junta, and then there'll be a dinner out there, and then turn around and come back. So, but it's really a good opportunity to really probably feel, and I'm not sure where they're at, but I know much of that rail between Hutch and out has been improved. The last time we did it, you could tell we'd go 45 mile an hour at points on that track, and cars on the highway are passing
the train.
And then once they got to the seamless rail, they were up to 80 to 85 pretty quick. So I think it'd be a good trip, and we didn't get a lot of notice, and apologize for that, but I'm glad you're able to go, and I'll give you more details on
Okay.
that. So,
Okay, good. Thanks for
and I
that, Steve.
Yeah.
think that's all I've got. Sports Arena Advisory Board Building Committee meets again on Thursday of this week. So get an update on construction. Things appear to be moving on pretty much on schedule up there, and a lot of work to do because I think they want to play volleyball in there in about 30 days. So.
Right. Amazing.
Wow.
You better move.
What are your thoughts on length of executive session?
Probably hour, or just say noon.
Noon?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that brings up that item. Anything else, John, that you have? We
That's all
can
I have.
have a
Thank you,
motion to recess into executive session.
I would move to recess into executive session pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception KSA 75-4319B3 in order to discuss pending issues related to the 2017 contract negotiations with the city's bargaining units. The open meeting to resume in the city council chamber at noon.
At noon. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second, motion second. Please call roll.
Iris De Carvalho?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes. Thank you all for coming this morning.